Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season 1 finale, maybe just finale, but I'm leaning more towards season 1 finale of Yakuza Fiancé. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So I'll save my thoughts about season finale, series finale type of thing until the very end of the recording, but just let's break down the episode. We're picking up in the events of Yoshino and Kirishima have come back after the events of last episode and just after everything. And, Yoshino is definitely not happy with Kirishima. And we see that play out more and more to the point that it's like, no, I'm not going to let you bring my bags in. And I'm just going to ignore you. It's like, oh, instead of you taking me to school, I'm going to get, was it Inamori? I'm going to get him to take me to school. And it's like, oh, and he proceeded to try and talk to her multiple times throughout the school day, even on the train back home, but she kept ignoring him. And Inamori and him go, oh, you're here. She's like, oh, thanks for taking me to school. And he's like, oh, I guess you're with Kirishima now. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm here by myself. And it's just like, wow, you're in the doghouse. It's like, what did you do? And he thinks about everything last episode, him and Shoma fight. And he's like, and that's probably it. He knows that's probably that's been the biggest issue. So he's like, yeah, that probably played a big role in that. And so he talks to Tsubaki about it. And Tsubaki's like, oh yeah, this is just what Yoshino does. She does the same thing to Shoma when she's super angry. She ignores you. She's like, if you're lucky, maybe it'll only last 24 hours and then she kind of moves on. But she's the one that dictates how long she'll stay pissed at you. But I love that Tsubaki was immediately like, oh, Renji's calling me because we're going to go eat together. So bye. And that's all he gets. So what does Kirishima do? He tries his best to cook meals for her and try and do this and that, and seeing the desperation. I even love one of the Yakuza guys being like, aren't you a masochist? Why the fuck are you getting so bent out of shape about this? Normally, wouldn't you enjoy this? And he's like, until this morning, I thought I would, but her ignoring me actually hurts. It's bothering me. And it's just like, he because it's like, even if she gets pissed at him and yelled at him, she's still giving him his attention. It's just like, it's almost like a baby that, a child that, is throwing a tantrum. Sometimes you might have to just ignore them because they'll throw the tantrum or freak out just to get your attention. That Kirishima, I'm sure in Yoshino's mind, she's kind of looking at Kirishima like that. And I love the guy just being like, oh, you're disgusting. How the way you're acting. And he keeps hitting Kirishima because I forgot what it was that Kirishima was saying. He was saying something and the guy just kept smacking him on the head. And the second time he hit him, someone was like, oh, he's actually kind of bleeding now. But yeah, he just didn't know what to do about this whole situation. So he stayed outside of Yoshino's house, place. And he was there 8 o'clock in the morning. And he stayed there, started raining and everything. He just never left the spot. And I think for him, it just probably makes him thinking about a lot of stuff. It's like, man, he's really down bad. And I talked about this previously of Yoshino's in a very specific spot for him because he's never really had any friendships. So the line between love for a friend and love for a significant other, I think those lines blur because he probably doesn't have a lot of experience loving people. So it's all kind of new to him and figuring this all out, figuring out his own emotions. I mean, we still know very little about Kirishima's past, and obviously we learned a little bit more about him this episode, but he still continues to be quite the enigma. But yeah, eventually Yoshino shows up and she's like, all right, I set this alarm 3 days ago. It's not even 7 yet, but all right, I'll cut you some slack because it's almost 7. So it's been 3 days. And he's like, oh, she's like, yeah, I've been ignoring you on purpose. So it's like, right. So we're going to set some ground rules going forward. You do not drag Shoma into stuff. You do not fight Shoma. Even if Shoma starts a fight with you, you ignore him. And he's like, all right, I'll follow this. He's like, but why were you kind of ignoring me? She's like, I kind of had to. Because she's like, if I just kept talking to you like everything was normal, the message wouldn't get across. I had to ignore you for you to finally take me seriously. Because other times you just offhandedly apologize. Because even he's like, yeah, normally when I apologize, you kind of move on. It's like, no, I needed to get through your thick skull this time, so I ignored you. It's like, next time you piss me off, I'm gonna ignore you even longer. So you might want to because his biggest concern was yo, what if this goes on for a month? This was 3 days and he was having a breakdown essentially. So He just didn't know how to, and it wasn't like he was putting up that front for the others. Like that was only for them and the audience. Where it's like, yeah, Yoshino didn't really see how much it was affecting him, but even she was like, wow, even she was surprised. Like I did not think it would affect you this much, because he, like Kirishima acts like, he puts on such a front that he makes it seem like everything's just gonna roll off of him. But this like stuck, like the knife got jabbed in him and twisted, So, and Yoshino tries to tell him like, the way I'm acting towards you, like there's only two people I act like that towards, Shoma and you, so that kind of speaks volumes. And there was kind of this interesting conversation they had about the Yakuza, where it's just kind of like, Kirishima was saying like Shoma's actually built for the Yakuza, because it's like, right, older people, younger people like him and adore him. The fact is that he is very social and stuff like that. Like all the qualities that make Shoma are like perfect or make him a Yakuza. But she's like, can't the same be said for you? He's like, oh no, not at all. Like I don't have those qualities in me and stuff like that. I guess the more like sociable aspects of being a Yakuza, because for him it's just like that's such a, I guess, foreign territory for him, like being a people person. Shoma, despite his like rough exterior and stuff like that, he is way more of a people person. He's more socially adept than Kirishima, who puts on such a front and a mask when it comes to people. Because he'd asked Yoshino about her past, like, do you have? Well, she first asked him about friends, and then he turned it on her. But she's like, yeah, not really, because she's like, because I was taller, like when I was younger, like most people like wanted to start stuff with me because I was taller and I came from a big house. She's like, it's not until like her first year of middle school where that kind of disappeared. It's because her and Shoma were hanging like around each other more, and no one wanted to start shit with her because they knew they'd have to go through Shoma first. So. But we've never really seen her interact with people at school, if I don't remember. I mean, to be fair, it's not like they're in school for long. I think the longest period of time they were in school was like maybe the first episode is the most we've seen them. First or second episode we've seen them in school. But like, I don't know. Like outside of like Kirishima, he's the person like she hangs around the most. And that was kind of a point she was trying to get across. I'm missing some of the like the dialogue details, but it is the thing of like, right, he is like the person she hangs around the most. And so it's kind of like, I think for her perspective, it's kind of obvious about their situation, but for him, it's kind of like a, sometimes guys, we need like things not to be so, I mean, and probably in Kirishima's mind, it is kind of subtle. It's just such an interesting oxymoron that it seems like sometimes he feels like he can see through Yoshino so well, but then other times he seems like the biggest idiot, which even Home Dude was like, what are you like? Well, did your IQ drop to a 3 or something? Because it's like, yeah, he can be such an idiot when it comes to Yoshino, but I guess that's just because she is kind of his blind spot in a lot of ways. So, and I think even he wasn't expecting it all to kind of play out this way. Like, yeah, he had his own like things going into this, he was going to toss her aside initially, but then like after near the end of episode 1, he fell in love with her. Like, yeah, this is it, but it's like, right now that we're like, boyfriend and girlfriend, like, what do you want me to do? Because she's like, she uses the metaphor Tsubaki used like last episode, like, oh, I don't know how to hold the ball or whatever. And she's like, yeah, Tsubaki said that you were a pro. He's like, well, how about we hold hands? And she touches his hands, and it's like, she's like, her hands are cold. She's like, they're normally like that, but his are warm. And it's like, oh, he normally puts ointment on his hands because it's like they're rough and they're covered in scars. And she gives him some ointment, and I wasn't sure, like when he put it on her hands, I was like, oh, are you going to like do the like the cutie thing of like you're like going to like rub your hands together with her hands and stuff like that? I was like, oh, thought that's what was going. But then he had this little like demented look on his face, and then like Yoshino was kind of pulling back, and like the way he was touching her finger and how she was acting, I was like, is this about to go sexual? And I guess it kind of does. But then he starts licking up the hand cream. I'm like, because I'll be honest, my perverted mind, I'm like, are we innuendoing this? Is that cream supposed to be cum? I'm just going to be upfront with you. I'm like, is that what this is supposed to be? But then him licking it up, I mean, I don't know. Because it made her unnerved, being like, oh, why the fuck did you just do that? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I just kind of got caught up in the moment. She's like, no. She's like, you wanted to go out for a parfait? The fact is, I dressed up like this because you told me you want to go out for a parfait. She's like, fuck that. We're not now. He's like, no. Come on. We could go out for the parfait. Please. That's another thing, too. Once again, they had this like really neat back and forth. I feel like this is the first time they've had like a full sit down, and once again, still didn't learn a lot about Kirishima, but there's still enough where it's like, oh, you're wearing this thing. It's like, oh, I thought. He's like, yeah, it's the first time I've seen you wear something I bought you. And she's like, well, I did that because like I thought, after everything, if I came out not wearing this, you'd probably try and kill me. But she says like normally I don't like wearing stuff like this. She's like, any of the other clothes and stuff you got me, I haven't really used them. I keep them as like brand new because she's like, I prefer buying like stuff like jeans and stuff. I like to just wear stuff that's comfortable. And she even talks about gifts and stuff like that, how she keeps them brand new and just doesn't. And because even Kirishima was like, oh, is that specifically like stuff from me or is that like from anyone? I don't remember if we got a clarification on that. It might have just been like specifically stuff from Kirishima she's like that with. But I think it might just been implied like, no, it's about everything like that with everyone. So like I said, they were having a moment, and there was some stuff there until Kirishima did the whole licking up the cream thing because he immediately killed the mood. So then the next day we had the whole situation with at the Kiragaya building. There was like a truck or some kind of truck that smashed into the building, and it seems like everyone's okay, but it's like, what was the cause of that? It's like, well, there's like a meeting and stuff, and essentially like, things kind of got heated. The way Shoma puts it, it's like basically the head of the Kiragaya got arrested like last month, and basically this is a distant like fallout from that. And so Renji's involved because he's basically the third in line in all of this. So he reluctantly gets like drawn in, and it just becomes this conversation about trying to rein that all back in, because there was the infighting they were warned about like 2 episodes ago about all that coming about. So but the home dude who's friends with Renji and Gaku, the one that, oh god, I'm blanking on his name. Isn't it like, was it Azami? I can't remember his name now. The dude that they fought like in episode, was that episode 9 or 10? I think that was episode 9 that Kirishima fought him. That guy, his boss. And then like he's like, oh, this isn't blood, this is wine. I was like, it's definitely blood. And I guess it's meant to be like the parallel to like what Renji did the last episode of Shoma and Kirishima. The same thing kind of happens here. And I love Redhead being like, yo, you should never touch the granddaughter of a Yakuza person. Like he should. So I was like, was he freestyling when he did that? Or is it a situation of like, oh, I guess maybe she has some role in all this, and maybe he just took a personal interest in Yoshino. I thought like that's why I thought was so interesting. Like, then why was he getting punished for that? I thought the whole point was Yoshino. Maybe you're supposed to do something about her, but not touch her or go after her. Even though he never did lay a finger on her, but maybe it's like you were involved. I guess because maybe they found out that she got hurt in the aftermath of just everything that went down. So maybe that's what it came down to. Not only did you touch her, like the fact that she got hurt, you were mixed in, and everything those people might have done to her, you're responsible for. Maybe that's kind of the energy that is what that stems from, maybe. But yeah, he gets like some notice about like third years and stuff. I was like, is that supposed to be about her school? I was like, wait, is this motherfucker going to transfer? Because it's about entrance exams. So I'm like, is this motherfucker going to transfer to their school or something? Is that what that's implying? I was like, that's it. Because the only one who knows about this guy are the people who worked with him. And also, but amongst our main characters, Kirishima's the only one that we're aware of that knows about the guy, because he interacted with him and knows this has something to do with Yoshino, but he hasn't told Renji about it. I doubt he's talked to anyone from his family about it either. Definitely Shoma's in them, but like, I'm curious to see if like Redhead ends up like transferring to that school too. So that'd be really interesting if that ends up being the case. Once again, maybe I'm missing so much context. I'm trying to understand what everyone's aiming for amongst like the Yakuza groups and amongst the Kiragaya. Like, I mean, I can assume it's all about power and position, but once again, there's like a war coming and infighting, but what the end result is, I'm unclear on what everybody wants. Like Home Dude, who seems to be pseudo our main antagonist, to do with the blood on his shirt and jacket. That guy, like, what are you aiming for? because I believe Home Dude had called him up about Renji and what their next moves are going to be. I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing some stuff, or maybe just at this point, I feel like I said, a lot of names and stuff kind of went over my head this season just because I was like, oh, forgetting who's who and what's connected to what and what's going on. Because I mean, at the heart of this, it is just like the Yoshino and Kirishima story, but there's all this other Yakuza stuff like smacked on top of all of it. So. But then I noticed, I was like, well, we got a little bit more time, so there's definitely got to be a post-credit situation, and there is. And I thought it was interesting. Kirishima's picking up like cake and some flowers, and he gets back to the house. I was like, are we going to have like a stinger or something? And yes and no, but when he gets there, he sees Yoshino's legs. You see him kind of panic for a second, and he sees her just laying down. He's like, oh, she's asleep. And he goes over to check her pulse just to make sure. She'll never know that that's what happened, but once again, he gets very panicky about it, and I think that's even a thing for him, like, have I ever really been like this towards anyone else, because this has become, regardless of the complicated nature of it, the weird situation of it all, this is a very important and intimate relationship for both Yoshino and Kirishima, and for him to like put his jacket on her to make sure she doesn't get cold, and then laying down next to her, like brushing her face and touching her a little bit. And I think it's poetic that while that's happening, lo and behold, who's calling? Shoma. So I don't know if he's going to show up there. I don't know if it was pertinent to everything, or was that just Shoma checking in on her, or what. But just that to be the final shot of the show is just kind of neat, very beautiful. So I don't know, obviously, like, it's a step forward, two steps back type of situation with this romance, but I think they are ending off in a better spot. Obviously, like, Yoshino had to lay down the ground rules of like, yo, these are my boundaries, even though she set boundaries before and he's kind of ignored them, but these are very specific boundaries that are specifically based around Shoma, interestingly enough. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where the future of this takes us. This is where we get into the conversation I was bringing up earlier. I looked it up. Obviously, I'm recording this super late. It's almost Tuesday at the time you're recording this. It's 11:52 p.m. I should specify. So at the time you're recording this, I looked it up. There's been no news on whether or not there's going to be a second season. There is more story, but I'm basing this on a Google thing. Because I've talked about it previously. I know, like, I think the manga's up to like 8 volumes, but it's a monthly release type of manga, and it might be on hiatus or something, because I was reading a comment saying like there probably won't be, and it's like a Reddit comment, so take it, like I said, I skimmed it while going through Google. I did not like read all of it. I caught a comment saying like there's not enough story in the manga for there to be a season 2. So I guess like maybe whatever exists of the manga currently and is published, I guess most of that's been covered with the anime so far. I mean, there's always a possibility of you could adapt what's already exists and then just kind of go your own way. That's what quite a few anime tend to do when their respective manga is still ongoing, or there's not a lot left to kind of adapt, So I don't know. Is it an interesting? Because like I said, I don't know if because the comment also said, I saw another comment being like, I hope the anime gets another season. It gets both the anime and the manga continue. So I'm like, oh, I wonder is the manga in a very I don't know if that means it's like in a hiatus status right now or what. So that is interesting. That's where I was saying before. I don't know if this is technically a season finale or series finale for the anime. I'm sure the manga probably goes maybe like a little further than this. But I don't know how much further, there's only like a couple chapters past this is where the manga is, like maybe another volume or two, but not enough to fill out like a 12 episode season or not. So, but I do hope we get more, whatever that may be. I don't know. It might be a situation that we might have to wait a while. Like if they ever do decide to animate more of this, it probably has to be wait until the manga gets further, or like I said, you start anime fillering this up and start kind of going your own direction with the anime if it decides to continue. So I'll leave it as maybe a season finale for now. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled over the next couple days, weeks, and months, and see whether there are any developments on this front, because I'd love to continue this story, because obviously there is no hard resolution. It's just, once again, Kirishima and Yoshino have taken a step further. We'll just have to wait to see how this all plays out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.